Kaiju Universe used to be the biggest Godzilla fan game ever. Just a year and a half ago, this game was so popular it was pulling in more than 10,000 players at a time. The game was simple: destroy cities or fight other players to earn G-cells that could be used to buy stronger kaiju, as well as XP that is used to level up your kaiju and make it stronger. Its real strength was the more than 70 kaiju themselves, which were some of the most well-made depictions of the characters out there. All of that ended on February 10th of 2024 when a DMCA copyright request from the company that owns Godzilla forced it to shut down. But that didn't stop them. Kaiju Universe came back a few months later with 8 original kaiju that they promised to add to over time. Some of those kaiju were something called a rehash. Rehashes were kaiju from the old game, keeping the same animations and moveset, but with a new original model so that old players could keep some of their progress. They kept adding these until 2025 when they transitioned into only adding all new original kaiju. Today there's a healthy sized roster of more than 30 kaiju, but despite all of their efforts, Kaiju Universe, which once pushed tens of thousands of players with each new update, struggles to stay above 600. So, why did this happen? What killed Kaiju Universe? Most players will tell you that it's a combination of two things. Many people say it has no players because Kaiju Universe doesn't have Godzilla characters anymore. Others say it's because they stopped doing rehashes. I don't think either of those are true. Yes, these are absolutely reasons that old players quit, and it's fair. These are good reasons to be upset at Kaiju Universe. But I don't think this is why the game died. These are only reasons why players who got into the old KU would have quit. It's been a year and a half. Shouldn't there be new players who don't care about Godzilla or rehashes? It's not like a game where you play as monsters can't thrive without a popular character like Godzilla. So I asked my subscribers when they started playing. 98% started playing before the shutdown, and only 2% played after. I know the real reason Kaiju Universe failed. There are no new players, and I'm going to prove why. Not exactly that. Yes, there are new players. Everyone complains about how there's a ton of the free starter Kaiju able cross, but none of the new players stay and become long-term Kaiju Universe fans. At least not enough to give Kaiju Universe a large and strong player base like it used to have. So I made a new account. No progress, no top tier Kaiju, just a level 1 able cross. I'm going to experience a day as a new player and see why no one keeps playing. My first goal is to farm 7,000 G-cells for Orath, the next cheapest Kaiju. I spawned in as able cross so I can begin working towards Orath, and I started destroying Costa CFA. The goal right now is to focus on buildings, because I know I definitely can't take any of the other players in this server. I'm trying to play how I expect an actual new player would, avoiding anything that looks too scary while fighting Kaiju my own size. A problem I already see is that after the shutdown, they took away the tutorial. So a lot of new players might not know that one of the best ways to earn rewards is by fighting others. About 5 minutes in, I encountered another new player, an Orath, the same Kaiju I'm trying to unlock. I fought it for an easy 400 G-cells, but it's important to note that a lot of new players wouldn't know how to play the game like I do, and so they'd lose this fight, and they wouldn't get the easy G-cells. The next Kaiju I saw was another able cross, but unfortunately this able cross got the jump on me and won the fight. A lost fight gives about half as many rewards as a won fight, so it wasn't for nothing. Back to using buildings, by the 10-minute mark I had only obtained 1,500 G-cells, a fifth of my goal. I got into a few more situations, like getting annihilated by an Amorpese, having to deal with an Able Cross and a Kangaroo at the same time, and winning against a Typhoon. One important thing I noticed is the leaderboard. Some of the server has thousands of kills. These are probably old players. Others have hundreds. These might be both casual old ones and a few new players. But most of the server has only a handful. Look at the huge jump from 10 kills to 100. Here's my theory. A lot of players try playing, but only a select few keep playing past the beginning. Finally, after 25 minutes of playing like a new player usually would, destroying buildings while sometimes fighting others, I had earned 4,000 G-cells. Not much. 160 G-cells per minute. Let's even be generous and say the average Ablecross playing like this would earn 200 G-cells per minute. That means it would take 35 minutes to unlock Orath. 35 minutes for the cheapest option. This isn't any slower to get 7,000 than it was in the old game. I don't think either version of KU had a perfect early game experience, but old KU blows new KU out of the water. In the old one, there were about 20 kaiju costing less than 10,000 G-cells. Now there's just one. But it's not just the number of kaiju under 10,000 that's changed, it's what they're worth. Let's look at what you could get for around 7,000 G-cells in the old game. The land and flying kaiju male Muto cost 7,500, female Muto cost 7,000, Manda cost 8,000, Ebriga cost 7,275, and both Heisei and Monsterverse Mothra cost 8,000 or less. There were plenty of good options under 10,000 in the old Kaiju Universe, and now there's just one, Orath, which I don't even think is a good one. Actually, it's a terrible one, and I'll show you why when I unlock it. I had the good luck to find a big free-for-all fight between new players, and I came out of it with 6,300 G-cells. Redeeming my 2 finished daily missions, I was able to get up to 8,800 G-cells, finally enough to buy Orath. Finally able to buy my first new kaiju in what would take most players 35 minutes or more. I joined in, fought an Ablecross, and earned nothing. Here's what happened. Ablecross gets something called starter protections. That means that other players can't get G-cells and XP from them, so they have no reason to kill them. Orath doesn't get these protections. So not only do other players have a reason to attack poor little Oraths, since they can earn XP and G-cells from them, but Oraths can't get G-cells and XP from Ablecrosses, which make up 90% of the players they can actually defeat in a fight. Not only this, but Orath is, in the hands of a new player, basically the exact same thing as Ablecross. Yes, I know that generally Orath is considered the stronger kaiju by experienced players, but in unskilled level 1 hands, they are the same kaiju. Imagine being a new player. You just spent your first 35 to 50 minutes grinding G-cells to buy your first kaiju. Finally, you buy it, and it plays exactly like Ablecross. Except it can't actually fight Ablecross, because it earns absolutely nothing. 35 to 50 minutes grinding. Here's the best part. Now that you spent your 7,000 G-cells, you're broke again, and the second cheapest kaiju in the game costs 14,250 G-cells. 200 G-cells per minute for 14,250 G-cells is 1.2 hours. It would take a normal new player 1.2 hours to get the second cheapest kaiju in the game. Buying Orath is one of the worst things a new player could do, and also one of the things almost every new player is 100% going to do. After a 35 plus minute grind fest, there is no shot a new player is skipping over Orath when the second cheapest kaiju is twice its cost at 14,250 G-cells. This fish is probably responsible for more people quitting Kaiju Universe than any other kaiju ever added to the game. Do you understand why there are no new players? Don't worry, it gets worse. Anyways, so far the early game in this version of Kaiju Universe is terrible compared to the old one. By now, a player would have been able to at least break free from the monotony of the one starter kaiju. All of the kaiju that used to cost around 7,000 G cells offered a special and different playstyle to mix things up, and there was a lot of variety in what you could do. At the very least, you could buy something before the 30-minute mark, and something pretty good like female Muto. But the cheaper than 10,000 G cell kaiju were just meant to give players a start. Things really started going between 10,000 and 20,000 G cells, where you could get stronger kaiju. Titanus Rodan was 18,000, Millennium Godzilla was 20,000, Jet Jaguar Beta was 14,500, Kamakuras was 15,000, Heisei Rodan was 10,000, and the most popular of them all, Godzilla 2014, was 20,000 G cells. 2014 was the perfect early game kaiju. Big, cool, easy to understand, and strong. So what do we have now? Typhoon is 14,250, his status is 14,500, Akatsume is 15,000, and Karamok is 20,000. Notice anything about Karamok? That's the rehash of Male Muto, who used to cost only 7,500. Typhoon stands out here. It is about as bad to a new player as Orath. A good player can make great use out of it, don't get me wrong. It has extended hitboxes for ranging and can abuse its healing ability like crazy. But to a new player, it's just Orath, but it can stop in the middle of a fight to heal and then keep getting torn apart. My new goal is to get up to 15,000 G cells for Akatsume, but I'm not going to spend another hour and 15 minutes playing as Abel Cross. So I decided that I'm going to play as aggressively as possible. I'm going to play like an expert player trying to grind as fast as possible and see how long it takes. What is the absolute fastest you can unlock Akatsume? "31 minutes. It took me 31 minutes to get from 1800 to 15,000 G cells. That's still only 430 G cells per minute, at the absolute fastest you can go at this point in the game. This isn't how normal players play. That's still the 200 G cell per minute factor I calculated earlier. So it would still take those normal players 1.2 hours to unlock this kaiju. It would be insane to expect every new player to play that aggressively. Not even a lot of the expert players do that all the time. Nobody wants to do that, and nobody wants to do it for hours straight to get into the game. Here's my proof. There are 542 players while I write this. So let's look at what you can get after this, and how long it'll take to unlock. Karamok costs 20,000 G cells. That takes the normal new player moving at 200 G cells per minute 1.7 hours, and the fastest you can possibly get it at full aggression is 46 minutes. Lorgath is 30,000 G cells. This kaiju actually came out in the middle of me making this video, and it is a huge step forward for the early game, but still, it'll normally take 2.5 hours, and at the best 1.1 hours. Amorpese is 50,000 G cells. That's 4.2 hours, or at the fastest 1.9 hours. Kageryu is also 50,000, but requires you to have 50 levels in Abel Cross. In my entire time playing, I only got Abel Cross to level 27. Karkanos is 40,000 G cells, but requires a bunch of levels in Akatsume, who is 15,000 G cells. That's a total of 55,000, which is 4.6 hours or 2.1 hours at the fastest. Most other kaiju cost between 75,000 and 250,000, and that is the majority of the roster. Where could the new player even go from here? Even a basic kaiju will take hours of their time. Clearly there's something deeply wrong with the new Kaiju Universe: the prices. I made a chart comparing the two versions of the game. The red is the new KU, the blue is the old. Look at how the red completely swallows the blue. Everything costs more, not just the cheap kaiju. The cheapest went from 100 to 7,000. The medium kaiju went from 20,000 to 100,000. In old KU, only about 20% of kaiju cost more than 100,000. Now more than half of them do. In the old game, most kaiju cost less than 50,000. The average kaiju was around 15,000 to 20,000. Now everything costs more than that except the bare minimum cheapest kaiju. Just look at rehashes. Orath was Godzilla 1954 and went from 100 to 7,000. Terramok was male Muto and went from 7,500 to 20,000. Amorpese was female Muto and went from 7,000 to 50,000. Saberyu was Manda and went from 8,000 to 150,000. Nuke was Monsterverse Rodan and went from 18,000 to 100,000. And even endgame kaiju like Godzilla Ultima went from 500,000 to 600,000. You can't expect to have a stable player base when more than half of kaiju cost over 100,000 G-cells, which would take at least 8 hours for the average player to earn. That's a price that used to be reserved for the best of the best. Yes, top players can earn that faster and are more willing to grind it, but now prices are just completely based on how the top players perform, all being in the 100,000s each. The developers have been so focused on making the grind challenging for the top 5% of old players that they completely lost sight of the rest, while also just making it a terrible experience for the top 5% too. And it shows with the low player count. The way it used to work was great. Most kaiju were less than 50,000 G-cells, but a select few powerful special trophy kaiju cost hundreds of thousands. Kaiju Universe was always a game of grinding, but before it was about grinding for a few amazing kaiju you knew would be worth it. Now everything requires that grind. There's no gratification or fun from it, it's just draining. When every kaiju is special, none of them are, and this game cannot work with so many kaiju costing so much. It completely tires out every player. No part of this game's progression is good. The early game is too expensive, the late game has too many expensive kaiju. It's anti-player. It's too grueling to get into for new players, and most new kaiju are priced just to be difficult for old ones. Put yourself in the mind of any new player. Even if they grind up to the 15,000 G-cell kaiju, they'll notice. Everything costs hundreds of thousands. Those 15,000 G-cell kaiju, a price point that was once that of the average kaiju in the old game, are only the beginning. They see the rest of the game as a pointless, painful grind, and they are right. At the time I'm writing this video, Kaiju Universe features the worst and slowest progression of any game I've ever played. There's a way to save it, and it's simple. Stop focusing on making the new kaiju hard to unlock for the dwindling amount of old experienced players already out there, and instead focus on bringing in new people. Add new kaiju to cost 50,000 or less, and especially 15,000 or less, and change the prices of existing ones to fit closer into the shape of how old KU was, where most kaiju were cheaper, but only the strongest and coolest cost hundreds of thousands. It's worth it to please the old players too. I know they don't do rehashes anymore, but they should at least make similar kaiju and give the progress back, like they did with Thermo Incineros for Thermo Godzilla. It's not a rehash, but they gave old owners their levels back. The developers already made a strong first step. The next kaiju that was released after I started writing this video was Lorgath, who only costs 30,000 with no special requirements. Still, the progression is very broken, but I know it's not beyond saving. I know they can save Kaiju Universe. I believe in this game. Even though I retired from my main work on this channel, I still follow KU's development and I wish the best for it. This pricing problem has been horrible though, and I'm confident that it is why Kaiju Universe failed after it came back. I really hope, for the sake of the game, that they choose to focus on the players again.